check that the flashing light is flashing because we are recording to the cloud because this is a SaaSOps show, a SaaSOps webinar, a SaaSOps meeting. This is Solve, which stands for SaaSOps Live Virtual Event. This is SolveTank. This is actually episode 11. We've had 11 companies come on and talk to us, do a demo, show us their product. And we, as our esteemed collection of SaaSOps professionals, give our opinion and ask detailed questions. And today I'm very happy and thankful to have Virtru.com to come on. I've actually been a customer of this product since it was an alpha. I first saw a demo by the CEO, I think in 2013, 2014 at a Better Cloud Google Apps for Business support group that used to be run in New York. So it's nice to have you guys back. Thank you to Trevor and Andrew. We'll pass it over to you to give a demo.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for having us, Colin. I think you certainly have me beat as far as how long you have known about Virtru. Maybe even Trevor too. But that's really exciting to be here today. Just wanted to just introduce myself. I manage the North American sales team at Virtru. Trevor Foskett, who is going to be doing the live demo today, is one of our senior solutions engineers. Just for those who aren't familiar about Virtru, we were founded a couple years before then, Colin, actually in 2012. We're headquartered in Washington, D.C. And the technology that we developed, our CTO, Will Ackerley invented, is the TDF, the trusted data format. And that is key to how Virtru operates and the value that we provide through encryption. And to date, we have a little over 6,000 customers, from small businesses to Fortune 50 enterprise-wide deployments. You can go to the next slide. Thanks, Trevor's helping me to navigate. So as we'll show you, really what Virtru is able to provide is encryption and control over your data throughout its life cycle. So upon creation, the TDF is encrypting data at the object level, essentially with an encryption wrapper, and that protection is going to travel throughout the data as it's shared, stored, analyzed, and most importantly, the TDF is going to allow you to take action as you do see the data potentially being accessed by those who shouldn't. And so we'll show you that in the demonstration today, but really the key of Virtru is not just encryption, but visibility and control through a manner that's easy to use. You can keep going. So the TDF is one piece of technology that we developed that's key to Virtru working the way it does. The second, as we'll show you, is the secure user-first technology. And that's really our secure reader that allows someone to be able to open and access content without ever having to create a username or password or download any software or download anything to their desktop. So these are just some of our customers that we have worked with. Really in all verticals. We, of course, are working with organizations to help them meet compliance, but from protecting intellectual property, helping to ensure multiple levels of compliance, including HIPAA, PCI, FINRA, FERPA, ITAR, et cetera, are some of the key use cases why organizations are using Virtru. And so as we'll kind of show you in the demonstration, some of the key problems and frustrations that Virtru helps to solve is traditionally when it comes to data protection, specifically encryption. It's not as common to add end-to-end encryption when you're sharing data internally. And then when things do leave, while they may leave encrypted and shared externally, you historically lose a lot of that visibility and control when things are shared outside of your network. And so this is really what Virtru aims to solve. So on the next slide, Trevor, whether the data is shared internally, whether that's between business units, you're ensuring that the data is protected with end-to-end encryption with our client-side plugin that we'll show you. This then limits any third party, including your mail provider or Virtru, from being able to access it. And then also just as important when data is shared outside of your network, maintaining that same level of visibility and control at all times. So not just the first recipient, but being able to take action if that person then shares it with someone else, being able to see that easily to ensure that you're fully owning your data, whether it's emails or files or other data types at all times. And so we'll show you our most commonly deployed solutions, which are our email and file encryption, as well as in Google Drive. We are a recommended encryption solution with Google. We're going to showcase the client-side encryption ability that we can help enable. That's one of the recent product updates from Virtru. We also do work with Microsoft, and we also do, through our SDKs, enable organizations to protect other types of data, not in these applications, but it could be a custom, homegrown, or built application with the TDF technology. So with that, I will hand it over to Trevor, and we will start the fun stuff of actually showing what it looks like.
Great. I'm going to switch from the slides here to the actual full screen view. Give me one sec. We'll walk through a quick demo here. We'll try and keep it within the bounds of the time here. So what you should all be seeing now is just a plain Gmail window. And so our approach, Andrew mentioned, we do work within both the Microsoft and Google ecosystems. But what I'll show you today is how we sit within that Google workspace. And we do that in a way that we want to bring this encryption technology directly into the workflows that you already use. 9 times out of 10, if I need to go to some other site to protect data, I'm probably just not going to do it. So through these Chrome extensions that we have here in the browser, we've added this Virtru capability directly to my Gmail Compose. We've also added that capability to Google Drive with the ability to upload encrypted content right to Google Drive. So we're spanning both of those workflows with this end-to-end encryption. So I'll go ahead and compose a message here. We can go through a data sharing workflow. I'm going to share to someone who's internal, part of my organization, Google Workspace user. We'll also do someone who's outside of the organization, and we'll get some sensitive data in here with some very real information about a very real new employee. Now, we do have the option, of course, when users want to opt into encryption, they can go ahead and just turn that toggle right on. Simple as that, hitting that switch. That is now taking care of all the key management and encryption on the back end so that users don't need to worry about applying keys or certificates. It's all handled by the Virtru software and coordinated through the Virtru platform. So we're using AES 256-bit encryption here, symmetric encryption, meaning that I don't need to pre-share public keys or secrets or passwords with other parties. I can just email straight away to those who have never seen Virtru before, and they'll be able to access this. Now, in addition to letting users opt into that encryption, we also want to provide some administrative control. So based upon the data that is in the email or the attachment, and based upon the policies that you all as administrators have configured, when we hit send here, even with an unencrypted email, we're going to flag that content for you, let you know that you have some sensitive data here that we may want to protect. We also have the option to enable just an automatic encryption. So you really have a spectrum of control here. Let's let users opt in when they know they want to encrypt. We can start educating a little bit with this warning. And finally, for that most sensitive data, we'll just auto encrypt. I'm going to cancel here, turn this on manually, and add an attachment as well. So we do encrypt both email bodies and any attachments we add. No restriction on the type of attachment that you can add, any sort of data up to 150 megabytes, so much larger than the standard Google limit of 25. But depending on the attachment type that we add, we can add additional controls. So that trusted data format that Andrew talked about is not just encrypting the data. Encryption is actually a pretty easy problem to solve. You can write a script to do it in 5 minutes, but really the controls that we can apply to that data that will persist no matter where it goes are really the important piece. So specific to the email, we can prevent others from resharing my data. We can add expiration dates so they'll lose access after whatever frame I set here. And then for the attachments, we want to add some additional control as well. So we can watermark with the recipient's email address, really discourage that screenshotting. Can always also add a function to allow them to download this down to the desktop, but in the protected format. So again, having that protection travel with the file, even after it leaves the email ecosystem, we want you to be able to audit or even revoke access to this as it sits on the desktop or a thumb drive or even cloud storage. So we'll put some of these controls on here. We'll go ahead and hit send, and you'll see this email now encrypting before it ever hits the network. So true end-to-end, Google's not getting visibility into the contents of that, nor is any other system that this email will pass through. Now, from the recipient side, a couple different ways to interact with that data that's shared with us. If you're another Virtru user, we have our Virtru plugin. You're going to get that email right in your inbox, and as we click into it, it'll just decrypt automatically for me. So really no extra steps there as a Virtru user. And we find that this enables a lot of organizations to start protecting a lot of that internal data that they typically hadn't in the past. When there's no extra steps, there's really no reason to not encrypt everything you send. And a lot of use cases would include benefits information or M&A data or just executive communications that we don't want being shared around the organization without control. So adding this encryption can really help there. Again, a seamless experience, automatically running that decryption for me right here on the client. The underlying data is still staying protected. Even though I can read this on my machine, Google is not seeing this, Virtru is not seeing this. Now, of course, that is our segue into, well, what if I don't have that plugin? Well, we want to make that experience as seamless as we can as well. So we don't want to ask our recipients to do things like install software or download funny looking attachments or create accounts and usernames and passwords that they're going to forget immediately. And so what we do is rely on existing email identities that everyone already has to authenticate you into this. So free Gmail user in the Chrome browser, the experience you're about to see also works on any modern browser, Chrome, Safari, Edge, Firefox, whatever it is that you happen to use. It'll also work on a mobile device. We want to enable this access to data wherever you need to, as long as you're an authorized user. So the first thing a recipient will see is not just an encrypted payload, although that is underneath the HTML that you're seeing here. We're going to give them some context and instruction. We do usually brand this for our customers, but given that I am a Virtru employee, it's branded to Virtru here. So they're going to read this message. You can customize the unencrypted introduction if you'd like. And once we have them sort of comfortable with this email, they're going to click unlock message to launch what we call the secure reader. The secure reader is the environment that we provide for recipients to be able to consume encrypted data without the need for any Virtru software. We basically load all of that technology for them right through the browser. So it's all right here in Chrome for me. But before we can decrypt the message, you need to prove that you're someone who should actually have access to this data. That's the whole point of access controls. So I'm going to select my existing email address. Again, no new identity to use here, no password to apply. I'm just using my existing identity. And so if I'm a Google user, we have that OAuth component right here. We can sign in with Google. If you're on the Microsoft ecosystem, we'll have that login with Microsoft there for you. So you're never having to have that unique Virtru identity. It's just your existing identity provider. If you're using something like Exchange or AOL that doesn't have that kind of baked in identity component, we also have an option for a verification link if you want to send that basically one-time verification. But for brevity's sake, we'll just click sign in with Google here, taking me into this email content. Now, important piece about the architecture of the secure reader. Looks a little bit like those standard portal solutions that you may be used to when you get an email from your doctor or your bank or whatnot, but a little bit different under the hood how this works. So again, we're running all of that decryption right here on the client. It's not taking place on Virtru servers or on Google servers. It's only being decrypted for me right here on that machine. So you get that true privacy end to end without having to have any software installed here. So you can, of course, read the message here. We can also take a look at that attachment. Now, depending again on the controls that the sender put on there, it's going to dictate what I as a recipient can do with this data. So we applied both the watermark function as well as that persistent protection, which again allows me to download, but in the encrypted format. So we can take a look at that watermark. We're going to see my email identity here splashed across the back of this document. So when we send to multiple recipients, always going to update to show the current viewers. We always know if there's a screenshot or even pull out your phone and take a picture of your screen, we know who the source of that leak may have been. I'll go ahead and download this too. You can see that HTML extension being added to that file. That really just serves to instruct my computer what to do with this encrypted data. One day, we hope that the TDF will be so ubiquitous that my machine will just handle that natively. But until we get there, that HTML just says, hey, open this through the browser. So again, I can put this wherever I want, but it's still under the control of the sender, even though it's not in that email ecosystem anymore. So I want to take you back briefly to the sender's mailbox for a minute, because as we mentioned, we don't just want to protect the data, we want to control it and add that visibility. So if we look at our sent items, can pull that message up and you'll see some things here that are not standard to the Gmail experience. First, we have this inline read receipts here, giving me that feedback right in Gmail, whether this has been accessed by my recipients or not. Now, if I want to change some of those access controls, if I come over here, we can always update these in real time. So you call me up and you say, I really love this document without the watermark. If I want to say yes to that request, all I need to do is just click that, updating the control in real time. No need to send this message again. Likewise, if I look back at this and I realize I sent it to the totally wrong person or I've included the wrong document, we always have the ability to revoke that message immediately just by clicking here. So after I click that, I can still read this because it's my data. But when we think about our recipients and whether they can access it, as we try to decrypt this now, even though the message is still in my mailbox, I still have that ciphertext. When I try to unlock that decryption will fail because we're cutting off access to the keys. And that's really what the Virtru platform does, is control and distribute access to these decryption keys based on the controls that you have put in place. So you always have that ability. As the protection travels with the data, if we cut off access to those keys, we can cut off access to the data. Likewise, that document that I pulled down earlier, if I try to open this now, even though it's on my desktop, I'm going to try to reach out to the Virtru software as a service for my keys, and I'm going to be denied access here. So again, putting that control in your hands wherever the data flows. Now, thus far, we've looked at this mostly from an end user perspective, and we want to show a little bit of how we can control this as an administrator as well. And a big part of that is all through this visibility into the life cycle of the data. And we give you a couple of views there and how we can see where our data has gone, who's interacted with it, and what they've done with it. So first, on this email and files page, we'll see basically a record of every piece of encrypted data that our organization has created. We can't show you the data itself because Virtru doesn't have access to your email or file data to show you, but we can show you some of the metadata. So for that email we just sent, we can see that it's been revoked. We can see who the authorized users were, whether they accessed it or not. And administrators have the ultimate final say whether they want to reauthorize or revoke or change security settings based on their users. So you can come in here, get a little bit of feedback about that message and what its lifecycle was. Even if it's been forwarded, we can show you that forwarding tree, letting me know if my data has moved to other additional places outside of my environment. So let's see, we'll do, this is the one that we sent 3 years ago now. Can't believe it's been that long. So this is a message that was heavily forwarded. There's a lot of forwarding behavior here, and we can see that through that forwarding tree. Now, if we want to go a little bit deeper and we get a little bit more forensic and granular with our analysis, we can look at the audit tab here. And this is where we're going to give you individual itemized data for every interaction taken against a piece of data or by your users. So if we want to look at the entire life cycle from creation through revocation, denied access, various access attempts, each of these will have that telemetry associated with it, so we can look at IP, we can look at user platform, et cetera, to really inform whether this was an event that we approve of or not, and if not, we always have that revocation button. Now, this can be admittedly a bit of a needle in a haystack to look at here in the browser. We also do make this available over APIs if you want to ingest into a SIM system like Splunk or Sumo Logic, so you can run that analysis and set up alerts outside of this control center environment. Finally, administrators can configure those rules that we looked at earlier. So if you want to use some of the out-of-the-box things that we've included here, you certainly can, just clicking what you want that action to be, auto encrypt, warning, or log. But you're also able to come all the way down into our custom rules section here and create your own rules, get a little bit more creative about it. So really scanning any field of that email you want to take action, include and or logic here, and then you can have it take really any action you like, whether you want to encrypt or start getting a little bit more advanced, adding BCCs like the security group potentially, even applying some of these access controls by default rather than by user selection. So we want you to have that administrative control. So that is the speed run through the Virtru SaaS offering. I wanted to save a little bit of time here to touch on the Google Drive client-side encryption that was just announced by Google. I think that'll be very exciting. So in this case, the functionality that we'll see within the Google Drive environment is actually provided by Google themselves. So we'll see a slightly different type of logo here, the little keyhole in the shield. So this is all being delivered natively through Google Drive, with Virtru sitting now in a key management capacity off to the side. So as we create this encrypted content within the client-side encryption, Virtru is there running off to the side as that key server, ensuring that Google does not have access to the decryption keys for this content. So if we hit new here, you'll see, in addition to my standard options, my Virtru options, we also have the option here to create blank encrypted documents with Google Docs, Google Slides, and Google Sheets. And so I'm now able to use that Google Docs editor to create encrypted content right here in the browser, not needing to do that on the desktop. If it's sensitive, we can create that encrypted content right here inside my browser in the Docs editor. So as we type here, everything that I do is going to be encrypted and totally invisible to Google. So when we save, that document is getting encrypted, keys are getting exchanged with the Virtru key server off to the side, and then the encrypted content saved back to Google. So again, this enables those workflows that we all want to use. We want to simply use Google Docs, Slides, and Sheets. Now we can use it for our really sensitive data as well. No need to work on the desktop. So really a seamless experience. There's really not a lot to show for CSE. With the key server running in the background, it's really just a quick, simple thing that if it's working correctly, you barely notice it. They still allow you to collaborate and share with other users. A couple limitations based on the fact that it is encrypted. You're not going to see spelling or grammar because Google needs to see your content in order to provide those tooltips to you. And so without being able to see it, they can't correct. But otherwise, you're here able to edit. You can share with other collaborators within your organization. They can make updates as well. So very simple interface here, what you're all used to, but now in that protected format. We do also allow Virtru for Drive to sit next to CSE, and in the future, we should have some interoperability between the two formats, allowing you to enable those for different workflows. The TDF is very designed for cross-platform, cross-environment, cross-network sharing, whereas CSE is designed a little bit more to stay in that Google ecosystem. So when we think about the different workflows, one solution may be more appropriate than the other, depending on what it is we want to accomplish. So with that, I will take a breath and we can go from there.
Trevor, that is brilliant. I think you may have done these demos before.
One or two.
Very, very, very smooth, very well prepared, and I think it really does lay out how the product works. Obviously, I am semi-biased and informed. I've been using the product for a long time in our organization. But like this is, I can see in our chat, which always is very busy in the background as the demos have happened. Our SaaSOps professionals have been asking a lot of questions. Some of them have already been raised or answered. Who has a question they want to ask? Where can we dive deeper? Who's got a question first?
I could go.
Oh, I just ask a quick one there. Just maybe more on the user management features and in terms of controls and domain lockdown, auto provisioning, things like that. I'm just trying to think about ease of use for small businesses, large businesses. Actually, might want to roll this out.
Certainly, yeah. So especially within the Google ecosystem, the user management is dead simple in that we basically connect to your Google directory and you can just sync those users right through. It will even inherit your admin permissions if you'd like. So everyone you can just license that way. If you'd like, you can also just add them as a CSV or just manually enter them for a smaller deployment. Sometimes that makes a little bit more sense. And then within the users, we also have the option to break out some of the administrative privileges. And that actually helps with a larger deployment where we might not want someone to be a super admin, but we may want them as a DLP admin or a permissions admin. So you can start to separate these out by just function or by OUs and groups if it's only appropriate to manage a certain subsection. But in terms of licensing, we really just do that domain sync, as we call it, to pull folks in, and that's how we do it. Or again, if you want to do it slightly more manually, that's certainly an option as well.
Do you import groups too?
We do, and that's one of the really nice things about our Google Workspace integration is we pull in those groups and OUs that allow you to not only set up individual sub-admins for those groups and OUs, but we also allow you to set up those DLP rules differently based on group and OU as well. So, you know, your engineering team is going to have a whole different set of data protection requirements than HR, and so we want to make sure that's flexible based on the job function.
My silly question for the day is how does this affect with the encryption of the docs you mentioned, the example of clicking on the link, the save button there. How does that affect with transferring docs to others? Is there any transferring that you need there? Or do they stay encrypted or?
They do. One of the really nice things about Virtru for Drive, the purpose-built one that we've created, is that we get to hook into the Google access control list for files that you have in Drive, meaning for that transferability, as soon as it's transferred on the Google side, we see that, we update the access control for the encrypted document as well, which is, yeah, that's typically the first headache you think of when we talk about access controlled documents in a shared space is it's going to be a mess, but having that insight into those APIs makes it all very seamless.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I noticed a couple of us asked when you were manually creating an encrypted doc, you had to click on save.
Yes.
Is there still any form of autosave, or do you always have to manually save?
Not yet, but that is going to change. So this is really V1, I'll say, of the Google client-side encryption. So today it is manual. You need to hit that save because it's doing a whole key exchange and rewrap operation. It's I won't say not feasible, but certainly an easier path to deployment for them to just say, let's have that be manual and not continuously running. The next iteration will be a 5-minute autosave. So it's just going to do that for you every few minutes. And then I imagine as the product matures, they'll start to probably focus that down a little bit. But for now, it is manual. Although if you do make some edits and you try to leave, it will say, hey, you've got unsaved changes. You want to go back there. So there is a little bit of a safety mechanism there, but for now it is rather manual.
Cool. Yeah, that's helpful because people are at this point, I think, accustomed to docs just auto-saving for them. So that flag is definitely going to be important.
Certainly. And there are a couple other things to be aware of with the client-side encryption for doc slides and sheets is that the collaboration portion is still also early days, I'll say. So you will see when someone else is in the document, it'll let you know up in the top right where you would typically see it. But you're not going to see their live changes as they type them. Again, because of that sort of manual save operation, things aren't being transmitted in real time. So there are likely plans on Google's side to iron that out a little bit, but for now, it's more of a warning message. Hey, you might be overwriting someone else's content here, so you should probably check in, check out is sort of how they refer to it as the system today.
That's a really good call out. Thanks for bringing that up.
Absolutely.
Can I encrypt an existing document?
You can. So the Google Drive encryption topic is one with a lot of sort of conditional answers right now. And so what I mean by that is we have the Google client-side encryption. We also have the Virtru for Drive encryption that leverages the TDF. So with Virtru, absolutely. Existing document, you can go ahead and click on that and say, I would like to encrypt this, but even remove the original if you'd like. If I want to click on one or a handful of these files all at once, we can just encrypt directly in place, or you get a second encrypted copy. So we can certainly do that. The one thing that Virtru for Drive doesn't do is the doc slides and sheets. That's, only Google has the access to enable encryption of those. So what we do today is enable you to make an encrypted copy of that doc slide or sheet, which in the corresponding Microsoft format. So if I've got a Google Doc, I can say I want an encrypted version of this. It'll make a docx that's encrypted with the Virtru TDF. Now for the Google implementation of client-side encryption, you can encrypt pre-existing static file types, meaning if I have this picture of my dog down here or this PDF, we can right click on that and we have that Google now make an encrypted copy version. So they don't have the encrypt and replace, just the encrypted copy. For Google Docs, slides, and sheets, those need to be encrypted right from the start. They don't have that ability to make an encrypted copy. And here's the Virtru option to make the encrypted docx. So yeah, depending on, again, the workflow, one of these is going to be more appropriate based on what the goal of that data protection is.
How is your mobile experience like? I believe, I guess, for what you've shown us today requires obviously, I guess, browser and a Chrome extension. So I just want to know what the experience will be like for the end user on mobile.
Sure. So a few components to that. So from a recipient standpoint, that whole flow that we walked through with the Virtru Secure Reader is entirely supported on mobile browsers as well. So you can get into messages whenever you like on your mobile Safari, mobile Chrome, whatever it is that you happen to use. For creating data, there's a few options. So we do have a mobile app that basically is a mail client, like the Gmail app, but it's just a Virtru app that allows you to create encrypted content, consume encrypted content right there on the device. You can also send and read normal emails. We're not going to restrict you on that. We also have, if you prefer to go with a deployment that doesn't involve that mobile app, we also do have what we refer to as our gateways. They're essentially mail relays that you can sit behind Office 365 or sit behind Google Workspace that do the encryption more at the server level. And so that doesn't require any locally installed software. And we see those deployed not only for that mobile use case, but for use cases where you've got an executive who really wants to use Apple Mail for whatever reason, and we don't have a plugin there on the desktop, or even for your automated processes. So systems that are sending out reports or things like that, where of course we don't have a plugin for your home-baked script that's sending those emails out, but as long as it goes through those gateways, we can encrypt it. So depending again what you want that mobile experience to be, we can either put that app right on the device, works with MDM providers, you can push it out through whatever you're using for MDM, or we can just leverage that gateway for a more seamless in the background encryption.
Okay, thank you.
Are you planning for those? Are you planning for the Google Mail add-ins? And would that work instead of a Chrome extension? Because those would work on mobile, at least on some. reading?
That's a great question. So for the add-in framework that they have developed, not all the way there yet. We would love to be there because that would make us ultra portable, and especially with the mobile component would be great. The framework that they've enabled here is a little bit limited from the developer side, where we can't do all of the crypto operations that we need to do to encrypt and decrypt messages in that side pane, unfortunately. So we would like to get there, and we've been kind of nudging the Google product folks about that of, hey, can you open this up, make it a little bit more extensible? But for now, we do need to rely on the extension just because it's not supported. Now, the interesting thing, and what I'm really hoping is going to make Google sort of move forward on this, is that the Microsoft add-in framework, they actually do provide enough for us to do that. And so now within the Office 365 environment, we do sit right here in the sidebar, no software needed. It's all sort of a native experience. So I'm hoping that that motivates Google to step up their game a little bit.
You're not the first one to tell me that the Google add-in experience is not great.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've tried to keep it simple in terms of the developer stuff, but when it's simple to use, it's also can be simple in what you're able to build. So yeah, it's a trade-off, but hopefully they can expand a little bit, or at least enough for us.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, they enabled Python on your own stuff instead of AppScript now, so it's moving in the right direction.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic. I think I've got my next hackathon project. Let's see. I'm trying to run up through the chat here and see if there's anything we didn't cover.
I have a question actually.
Sure.
I was trying to figure out what the sort of administration experience is like in terms of things like e-discovery. Like if I need to find like all the emails about a certain topic, can I do that? Or is that
fantastic question. I'm glad you asked it because I didn't cover it in the demo. It's one of the more impressive technologies that we have, I think. So typically, you think about an encrypted email, the whole point is that we can't, interrogate against that message. That's sort of why we encrypted it. However, we have built, I say we, our CTO, who's a very smart guy, he invented this TDF that we've been looking at, also invented and then patented a technology that we call Encrypted Search. Not a very creative name, but the technology is cool and it allows you to do just that. So it actually allows you to submit searches both within Gmail or in Google Vault, and return encrypted content matching that without ever exposing that data to Google or to Virtru. So you see I search for this banner here, all these encrypted results come up. And even though Google has no idea what's in this email, we can still return results based on that. So that same technology works in both Gmail and Vault for Drive as well as email. So you can still retrieve all of your encrypted content. And then our same Gmail plugin that's performing this seamless decryption for me here in Gmail also hooks the Drive, the Vault UI as well. So your Vault admins, they can run that search just as they do today. And when they find those results, they'll be able to read it directly in line as you're seeing here. We also do have for, a larger e-discovery request, you find a whole slew of emails that you need to give to the lawyer. We do have bulk decryption toolkits as well. So you can take that MBOX or PST of encrypted content, run it through that utility, and it'll just come out on the other side totally decrypted. So again, depending on what the need is there for e-discovery, we have you covered on both of those buckets.
The way that that's implemented when you do that search in your Gmail, it's using the Chrome plugin.
It is, yep. So basically what we're doing is intercepting the XHR request that would submit that search to Google, and we're doing some crypto stuff to it, and then we put it back in the pipeline once we've messed with it. So it's really all happening on the front end. From Google, they're just searching for a bunch of nonsense that they don't really understand, but we're sort of making them do the heavy lifting in terms of actually returning the data.
So that works in Drive as well?
It does, yep. So you can return encrypted results within Drive as well with our Drive plugin, yeah.
That sounds impressive.
Yeah, I've dug into it a little bit. I still don't fully understand some of the crypto stuff myself on that, but it works. So it's great.
Any more questions? We've got about 10 minutes left, and there's 13 of us on the call. I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to give a quick bit of feedback. I know there was one important question that Rose is always very good at raising. Pricing.
Yeah,
that sounds
I totally
like
forgot that I had asked about that. I was gonna ask him if you would share a little bit about your licensing structure and maybe talk about pricing if you're willing to. I know that's a hit or miss for a recorded call.
This is the part of the conversation where I say that's an Andrew question, and then I go on mute for a while. So hopefully Andrew is still with us.
I was muted, sorry. Yes, so our pricing does vary, of course, just based on different products. We showed the key management, Drive, as well as Gmail. It is per product, per user, and also just based off of the size of the organization, it is different. We don't have just a standard pricing that I could share here, but we do work with organizations, that have, one employee, your average, dental office or accounting firm, as well as large enterprises. And, we are priced competitively just in the encryption space, but we can always put together a custom quote for anyone who's interested.
Okay, excellent. So let's get to some feedback. If Trevi, if you could stop the screen share, I think it'd be great, and then everybody can get to see everybody. And I've got a list of users. I'm going to call on people, give a quick 30-second your view on this product after seeing the demo. Randy, your thoughts?
I actually saw this and used the tool horrendously long ago when I was back in New York a few years ago. So I've known it for a while too. I've loved to see the growth. Unfortunately, haven't been able to get it in here yet, but hopefully in the future might be able to. But really, really like the tool and look to use it further, especially the Drive stuff. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Paulie's.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I know Will, so I've been working with the Virtru technology for, well, ever since it kind of came onto the market from a moving data into a encrypted environment. So I was responsible for making that happen, put the tooling together so that was something that could be done. And yeah, I absolutely love it. I think it's a key piece of technology when it comes to security and just controlling your email. So yeah, I think it's a must for those kind of organizations.
Excellent. Yeah. Jerry M.
Yeah. Hey, Andrew. I know these guys really well. We're one of their larger resellers, so little biased there. But I could tell you, if you guys remember, 6-7 years ago when Google had their Google encryption, which was Zix, right? Virtru came on board, and we actually transferred a lot of customers over to Virtru because of the non-portal, right? And I think that was a big game changer for them and really cemented their place here as the go-to for encryption for Google. And ever since then, we've really pretty much only resold Virtru as an encryption tool. So love what you guys have been doing. The Drive stuff obviously has been hugely requested, and looks like you guys have finally gotten up to the point where it's ready for prime time. So happy to see that.
Excellent, thank you. Christian, your feedback and thoughts?
Yeah, so we're Rise Digital is my company. We're a relatively new Google Cloud partner, and so we deal with a lot of very small businesses. And it's really great to see that you've put together the experience in a way that is going to make it easy for small business owners. You mentioned dental offices, medical offices, lawyer practices, and things like that, that don't necessarily have a whole IT team to themselves to be able to train their users on how to use it. You've just made it so easy, and I love that.
Excellent, great. Caleb Coy.
Yeah, gut reaction, whether or not I would have been able to get it approved or not is another story, but I can definitely see like immediate use cases in the job that I just left where this would have been a huge pain relief for me. That user experience being so seamless for the recipients, like big kudos for that. That was beautiful to see. And even just the little things that might get missed, little pieces of design that matter so much, that consistency and the little spinny loading screen is great. I loved that. So
our designer is going to be very happy to hear that. He's got a whole design system worked out. Everything's got to match. So that's great.
Excellent. Brian?
No,
Oh, we got two Brians, didn't we? Well done, Brian, Kim. You can go first.
Yeah, I think
And
other
everybody will.
Brian dropped. Yeah, so no, I'm seeing more and more customers use Virtru, so I'm happy to see the growth in the market. And yeah, I'm also very impressed with how well you guys are always prepared. I've attended a few demos for some of our customers, and always like you guys are able to answer questions perfectly. There's no stones unturned, so very impressed.
Cool. Oh, and the other Brian dropped. Maybe he'll come back. Andy?
Yeah, so I was sitting through the demo thinking, yeah, this is all great, but when it comes to the admin experience, it's not gonna cut it. And then at the end, I was like, okay, so tell me about e-discovery, and that was a really impressive solution, and that was quite nice. I think that like some of the things that Dom was asking about the add-ons, I think if that was filled out a little bit more, then I think that would make it a lot more slick. And one of the things we're thinking about is like we've got a lot of external email because we have a lot of clients, a lot of partners we're working with, and it feels like it could be interesting, but it could also be quite a headache from an admin perspective just to manage when it doesn't work for those folks.
All right. Cool.
If I could jump in, just one thing to add to that we didn't really touch on is we do have the ability to also set up data encryption gateways to essentially just cover outgoing content where there essentially just is no plugin. So for someone who's using Mac Mail, for example, it's going to be slightly different where it's not then the true end-to-end encryption because it's not getting encrypted until it reaches that. But we certainly, that's a common use case. Another would be encrypting coming out of other applications like Salesforce, for example, wanting to add Virtu's encryption to that. So that does help with just the concern of, from an admin perspective, covering people on different devices or in different environments.
All right, great, thanks. Rose, your feedback and thoughts?
Well, I've heard good things about Virtru from Colin and some other folks in our community. I think, in the industry that I'm in, we have very few needs for something like Virtru. We're not heavily regulated. And so I think, I have less of a need for it than many people, but, I can definitely see the value for organizations that do have some pretty heavy compliance needs and some pretty heavy data protection needs. And I appreciate the breadth of options, I guess, the different ways you guys go about encrypting data and I forgot who said it. Somebody else's point, I think maybe Christians, that you really try to respect where the user is at, which I think is a very, very valuable thing, especially in today's world. Like, security doesn't happen unless it's easy for users to do. And so I really, really appreciate that. A little bit concerned about the licensing.
You just got to call your representative and
yeah.
That's a good price.
I'll take care of you.
I got loads of time for that too.
Yeah, maybe if you when you try and do the checkout, maybe if you put in solve10, you'll get 10% off. I don't know if that coupon code works. I don't know. It needs to.
Not a bad idea.
Try it everywhere.
We can definitely honor that.
I know a couple of our colleagues.
Solve 20 is better.
Yeah, that one has a very, very short window of when it's valid. I know Chris, Hiram, and Dominic, your videos are off. I don't know if you want to unmute and say anything. You might be in places where you can't. He's in a car. Look at that, upside down, left and right.
Yes, I just arrived, so I have a good view now. So we definitely need to talk, because client-side encryption is definitely something that our clients will ask. So we are also a Google Cloud partner and workspace reseller, and a lot of that is gonna come up if Google is promoting this more. I hope that Google is working on a couple of things to make your job easier. Gmail and Drive plugins, as well as the autosave and live collaboration piece, especially as that would be the most important part for myself as well. Like 95% of my data is in Sheets and in Drive docs, native docs, and not somewhere else. So that is something that we are super curious about, and we and our clients as well. So we definitely need to talk.
That's good to hear. Hiram, anything?
Yeah. So we're actually a customer of Virtru, and I assign access to it, but I didn't really know any depth or how it works, since I don't use it as a user. So this was a really good eye opener for how the product works, and should be able to do more support for that now.
Excellent. But that's been useful, and we can see Dominic is in the beautiful mountains of Austria after being very safe and joining us while he was driving on the Autobahn. My feedback, I think it is a product that everybody needs to use. I may be biased, and I may have appeared in a promotional video for Virtru a number of years ago in 2015, 2016. I may have received a jacket as payment. It's a very nice jacket. But no,
during your modeling career.
Yes, yeah, one of my many different modeling careers. I love the simplicity that end users can use it. It's used all the time by HR, finance, and ourselves in IT to send end users. So certainly when they're starting remotely, we can securely send them their login details. We'd have had to have got their cell phone numbers and text them their passwords, email them their usernames, text them the passwords, and that would have been a real pain. It's really helped us do that onboarding securely with people being remote. The only things I would love, and I've said this for many years, I'd love Slack's version of per usage fair use billing. It's a lot harder to manage it for ourselves via assigned licenses, because people might only be sending a few encrypted emails throughout the month or the year, and I'll happily pay for usage, but for a full license sometimes doesn't work for us too well. But the costs aren't they're affordable, so we can have it deployed for a larger majority of people. The other thing I really like is that admin control, that if you do have the Chrome extension and people don't encrypt something and there's a keyword, dealing with PII, you will pop up and request that or give them the suggestion that they encrypt the message. I really like that as well. And the only feature request that I think would make it perfect for me would be when we onboard large amounts of people, we often do mail merges. You can't encrypt mail merged messages. You have to send them all individually, which takes hours and hours.
Well, Colin, I think we've got a gateway for you that I think will take care of that for you.
Yeah, I know the gateway word, but I don't want to change my whole gateway just to onboard 200 new people. So we break it down, and each engineer has to send 20 emails. So yeah, a bit of RSI there, and a little hand massage afterwards, and everybody's okay. But yeah, I think it's a wonderful product. As everybody else, very excited to see the integration into the new Google Drive client-side encryption. That's going to be a game changer for a lot of us. So thank you very much for joining. Any final words from Andrew or Trevor?
Thanks a lot for having us, and feel free to visit virtru.com, and we're happy to help anyone.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo that sentiment. Thank you guys so much. This is a great discussion, lots of good questions, so appreciate you all taking the time.
Excellent. Thank you. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Thank you.